How's everybody doing?
Please send that to
Good,
me.
how are you?
Yeah.
Boss.
Doing great. Doing great.
Sorry, coach.
Who's up?
I think we keep talking about the running game and where that can take some steps forward. And coaches have looked, there's some good stuff there. What gives you kind of the feeling that it's about to turn the corner?
I think the biggest part is that we ran the football when we had to. At the end of the game when it was the most important, I thought we executed at our best. And I think that's the part that you got to build on is that when we really had to have it in some critical situations, holding the ball for 8 minutes at the end of the game, I thought that was, a lot of gives us a lot of hope that we're headed the right direction.
Are you thinking of the 3rd and 4th play to Zach?
Yeah, that was a big one, and that was tons of credit to Geno. Adjustment on the sideline, looking for just opportunities to run the ball, and Geno saw that and hit it. So just ton of credit to Seven. He, is just a good player, savvy guy like that. But it was a really good hit by the O-line and by Zach, obviously. So that was a good one.
His I know we've talked about this before, but kind of his ability to do that in situations like that. He had a couple of third down completions in that as well. Just his ability to do that kind of every single game, it seems like, when it really matters like that.
Yeah, Geno's been, that you look at what he's done at the end of the last 2 games, and I don't think for anybody in this building, that's a surprise how he operates at the end of a game, and just the poise that he has, and he obviously plays his best when the lights are really bright and at the end of the game. So that's something I think is really encouraging too for Geno is just continue to build on that and how he's able to close out games.
In both those games, he threw an interception before them.
Yeah.
What does it tell you about him? Like, some quarterbacks might kind of get gun shy and not want to make, like the throw he made to DK. That's a throw some quarterbacks might be afraid to
No
throw.
doubt.
What about him allows him to put that right?
I think he's got really tough. He's got thick skin. And I think any good quarterback, over time has to build that up a little bit and be able to, kind of get back on the horse, so to speak, and get ready to make the next throw. And I think the play in the present mentality for an NFL quarterback is absolutely imperative. And so for Geno, I think over time he's built those things up and knows that how tight NFL football games are every week. And that you've always got a chance. And I think he's done a good job of learning how to move on from those. Far before I got here. Just his understanding of the next throw and knowing that your most important play is the next one. He has a good grasp of that.
He told us today that Brett Favre was his favorite quarterback because of the gunslinging mentality. Yeah. Does that kind of scare you as his play caller that he has that?
No, it doesn't. I know that there's, some obvious things there that Geno has had some tough moments this season. But I just keep believing in the preparation that he puts in every day, that, he continues to see those things and he knows the things that he has to improve on and get better and play his best game. And I think that that's still out there for him. I know it is. And Geno does too. And I think he's going to continue to, work on those decision-making in those critical moments. And he made so many good plays, in that game. But I think the part you love about Geno is if you asked him after the game, you win and he makes some incredible plays out of the pocket. But the first thing he's, very critical of himself, that he's thinking about that, like, why did I do that? Why did that happen? And he just goes back through his process. And that's what I appreciate about him, is continue to improve that process and the decision-making in those critical moments and trying to make himself better.
What's his best game look like to you? What would that be that he hasn't done?
His best game, obviously a win, no turnovers. And every time he has a critical decision, he makes the right choice and does not put the ball in jeopardy. And then when the team asks him to and needs him to, he'll make the biggest play in the biggest moment.
Have you ever had a quarterback, Penix or anybody, do that type of game perfect that way?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple guys that played some pretty good games. Yeah, I think, and I truly believe that's out there for Geno, and I've seen games where he's been really, really close to that, honestly, where he's played about as good as you can play. And I think, too, with Geno, this isn't a, talk on the protection piece, but he doesn't get fazed by that. You don't hear Geno get on the headset like, man, this protection was this or that. He just moves on. Like, if it's a tough look, he just looks at how he could have gotten the play done or gotten it off. And, that's I think says a lot about his resolve as a quarterback.
Speaking of protection, it is tough to do when you've got Quinn and Williams at the middle of that defensive line. What is the challenge of trying to get help on the inside and make sure he's not so disruptive?
Yeah, I think that, it's a little easier to obviously scheme protection help for tackles, getting some outsourced from the outside with chips and things like that. So it's just knowing where he is and, having some regard for how you can scheme against him in protection. And I think everybody knows that going into the game. And we're obviously going to know where he is every snap and, do our best to make sure we get 4 hands on him as many times as possible.
Is that on Olu? Is that on Olu?
Yeah, it is. It
You have
is.
a young guy on one side.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely on Olu. Some of the plays are what they are, and he's going to line up where he lines up, and you're going to have to deal with that, which can be tough. But as many times as possible that you can get the most guys on him is obviously what you want to do, and what everybody does every week to him. So he won't be deterred by that. He's a really good player with, a lot of tenacity. So he's going to, work through that just like he does every week.
I'm sure he's part of this equation, but what pass defense-wise, their numbers are really good. Like, what
Yeah.
are they doing as a team to be so good in this
Pass rush, number one. I mean, that's, I think what they do is they try to make windows tight, and they make their pass rush come alive and basically say it's going to be really hard for you to make an accurate throw in this pocket. And I think those are the things that they do a pretty good job of. So you have to, try to take those things into account and, not put yourself in positions where you have to do it every play.
Going back to Olu, what growth have you seen in him? Because I talked to him after the game, and he really talked about, hey, I had to make a self-assessment and control what I can control. What growth have you seen in him?
Yeah, for Olu, I think that the ownership piece was the starting point, and just owning the things that he knew he had to get better at. And I think being able to take a step back when Connor was in there allowed him some time to really think about that, like, why am I in this position? Why am I not the starter? And then just dig in and start to work on, what's my second step look like? What's my balance look like? Like what's my tempo to the ball? All the things that, because it's never been a mental thing for Olu. He's extremely intelligent. He knows all the calls to make. He has great poise. There's some physical pieces that, as a young player, part of it's that too, is just that he's continuing to work on that.
And coaching quarterbacks, how do you balance that, like them, wanting to make the right play and not taking, I think something your coach said, not taking the player out of the play, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
How do you balance that?
Well, I think that's I know great quarterback play is it's a really, really fine line, really fine line, because you have to know the moments when it is a necessity to push that read, make the throw that's going to be really difficult to make versus when not to make it. And so if you take all the aggression out of the player, he's never going to make the tough throws that he has to make on third down or any throw. And so I think that you just have to continue to encourage and push and understand what are the things that can get you ahead of the read, and the preparation piece, so you have the confidence to have the ball out on time in the right window, and not tear down, just to continue to encourage that you can make all these plays. And I think that's the part that you love about a veteran like Geno, that he's not going to back down from that challenge. He's going to continue to work that, and he knows how thin a line that is. So just continue to chase that.
What is the right guard spot this week? How do you kind of go into the week assessing that with those two guys?
Wide open. Tawa and Christian are both competing for that. They both got a ton of reps today, and so we're going to continue to work those guys and see how this week plays out. We'd like to have pretty good grasp on that by Friday. But today was pretty even, I think, probably within 3 or 4 reps of each other, and we'll see what the film looks like.
When you look back at the 5 sacks on Sunday, what did you see as the issues there?
Well, the interior pressure is tough for Geno to deal with. Typically he does a pretty good job. If it's collapsing from the outside, he can slide out of there and get the ball out of his hand. But when the immediate pressure happens and it closes in from right there, it's just tough to make a good decision and throw the ball away, because throwing the football away is sometimes some of the best plays you can make and keep yourself out of negative yardage. But when it happens from there that quickly, it can be tough. So I think there was two that were a little bit rough, where literally, one, Christian's foot slips, his right foot slips on the logo, and the guy rips upfield, and those kind of situations are tough, and guys got to take into consideration their footing and things like that. But we're always assessing. I was critical of myself and the staff just on, did we provide enough help in the right situations? Because I think you endlessly are working on those schemes to make sure the protection is adequate, and how can you help without compromising the pass game? So we just keep putting pressure on that. I think we've had a lot of success at times where we have done that really, really well and taken care of Geno the best we could. And we just have to continue to evaluate like where are the problems from and how can we help the most.
And how about Abe through 2 games of his return?
He's doing great. He's doing great. He's not perfect, and he's still working into game shape. But I've been really impressed with his ownership just as a player. You see him, even after a play. Shoot, I can remember we walked through this morning, and he kind of had an MA on one, and he'll come right up to you and, hey, I did this, or this, and he'll own that moment and want to get it right. And so I've been really, really impressed, with his communication and ownership and what he needs to do to get better. And but physically, he's working into game shape. I thought he did a great job for only being 2 games in and being able to play a complete football game. And long 8-minute drive at the end. He's done it 2 weeks in a row now. So I think he's really getting his legs under himself, and we're trying to take care of him and get him back into game shape.
At the guard, do you want one winner to emerge to play the whole game Sunday? Or are you going to?
Yeah, I would. I would rather have some continuity for Olu to work with, and if there's, you'd rather one of those young guys. They don't necessarily need breaks and things like that. You'd want one guy to be in there and just kind of be the guy. But I think we also have to be ready to pivot if that's not working.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.